We welcome you, dear David, to the Sanathana Vani Studios, eagerly waiting to hear your journey to spirituality and Swami. David, being in a Western country, how a person in Las Vegas can actually become more spiritual person than a person who is actually living in India or very near to God. So we really wanted to know about that story.
I heard about Sai Baba in 1969, and actually my mother had an album called Baba Sings the Bhajans that was made in the West. And I liked listening to it, but because Swami was materializing things, I thought, okay, that's cool, but not really interested. In 1969, when I met him, we were introduced to a lot of different teachers and teachings, and Sai Baba was definitely one of them. And because he looked so unique. I mean, Swami with his hair and his robe and his playfulness really attracted me. But I stayed away. And then, shall we say, Swami, who had his hand in my life up to that point, decided that it was time for my life to be turned upside down. So he grabbed me by the ankles and shook everything loose. I wound up going through divorce and going through some real financial difficulties. And through that process, found Swami in the physical form. I read a book by Kasturi. And in there, Kasturi's talking about, because Kasturi was a devotee in the Ramakrishna lineage also. And he had the same issue I did about the cities. And in his book, he said he then found out that Sai Baba did not have the cities, it was the nature of the avatar. And I remember that line, the nature of the avatar. And it was like getting smacked in the face. Like, wow, look what I missed. And also because of the upheaval in my social life. And it was really funny because in the course of the breakups, most of my friends went away, which was okay. And I realized that the friendships I had pretty much were focused only on the material, and that's what was wrong. My spiritual life wasn't integrated in, so I actually started looking for like a place to really get deeper into my spirituality, and I found a Sai Center. And that's where I met Jenny, and the rest, as they say, is history. Swami brought us together, and step by step brought me closer and closer to him. What impressed me initially, because honestly, I went to see Swami the first time, I didn't really have faith, because there are a lot of teachers, yeah? But things started happening. So I'll tell you one story. Jenny had gone to India, and I wasn't sure if she was coming back or not. While she was gone, I had a dream with Sai Baba. And he basically told me to come to India, and because of the financial upheaval in my life, I didn't have the money. So, but I kind of thought, what, let's check this out. If this guy is really God, let's see what he can do. So I said, okay, in my mind, okay, I'll come if you give me the money, because I don't have the money to pay for the ticket. And I remember the cost of the ticket was $1,320. And so there was a travel agency on the first floor of the building I had my practice office in, and they made the arrangements for me and gave me 10 days to pay. So day 10, I didn't have the money, and I was going to go downstairs and tell them to cancel the ticket. But I stopped in my mailbox, and in my mailbox was a letter from Blue Shield, Blue Cross, and I billed them through my practice. But usually when they sent something, it was in another type of thing. This was like a personal letter, so I opened it up and it said, Dear Dr. Cornsweet, we've audited our books and realized we didn't pay certain of your billings, so we're sending you a check for those billings, and the check was $1,300. And so this kind of shows my relationship with Swami. I held it up to the sky and I went, what's the matter? You don't have the other 20 bucks? And just at that moment, a very dear friend of mine named Michael, who had the office next to me, came down the stairs to go to his mailbox. He didn't hear anything, he told me later, but he looked at me and realized he owed me $20. So he said, oh, David, I owe you 20 bucks. And he gave me a $20 bill. And I almost went into shock. It was like, oh, Okay. So I took the check and the 20 bucks, closed the ticket, and came to India for the first time. And that first trip was, as they say, a game changer. Because, honestly, the materialization's kind of like, it's a big deal and I'm not denigrating it, but that wouldn't attract me to Swami. What attracted me was the feeling around him, that sense of love, the sense of when he looked at you, it was just different than a human. And there were some very tiny, small interactions that I had where he just said, where are you from? And that, but there was so much energy and love coming off him that it felt different. Because I'd been around many, many, many teachers. And I'm not putting any of them down, but this was different. And so after that first trip, Swami had me. And I became more and more involved with the organization and his mission, doing more service work, and coming to India as frequently as I could, which was usually twice a year, and spending time in Puttaparthi. So we actually wound up buying a flat there, and our plans were Jenny and I were going to retire there. Okay. Had a beautiful flat, and then Swami changed the game. He also did something that was very interesting, and I actually have a picture of the moment that it happened, because I was teaching in the MBA program, and the students there were so sweet, and whenever Swami was around me, they would take pictures of us, and I have like these little pictures of Swami looking at me. It wasn't like there was these great interactions, long interactions, but this particular one stayed with me, and this is where my life really, it was just a huge impact. A friend of mine was very, very, very sick, and he was in the process of dying. And when, many years before, Swami had materialized some vibhuti for me. And I just kept it. And Bill was dying, and it was in the hospital. He wanted to die at home. And the doctor said to me, he wants to die at home, so you better get him home. And I said, well, how much time do we have? Because I knew we need to, get a bed and a nurse and all this other stuff. And the doctor went like this and looked at his watch. And I went, oh. And he goes, I don't think he's going to be here even tomorrow. So we got Bill home. And I figured maybe this vibhuti will help ease his passing. So I gave him some vibhuti and water. And he drank it. And he said, oh, Davey, this is wonderful. Do you have any more of it? And fortunately, a friend of mine had given me some also when I told him about the situation. And we gave him the rest of that, and he drank it. And the next day, Jenny called me and said, you need to get over here. So I thought Bill was passing. And I said, is everything okay? She goes, no, just get over here. And then she told me to look at his arm. When I got there, she said, oh, look at his arm. So she was in the other room, and I was looking at his arm down here, and there were some bruises. And I looked and said, what are you talking about? She goes, don't you see the Om? And I said, no, I don't. She goes, where are you looking? And I said, well, his lower arm. She goes, roll up his sleeve. So I rolled up Bill's sleeve, and right here was the outline of an Om. It looked like a tattoo. So everybody could see it, and they took a picture of it. I promised Bill, because he didn't have any family, that I'd be there, and so I was going to cancel my trip. And he got angry at me. He said, don't you dare. You go tell your Sai Baba, thank you. Now, Bill, up to that point, believed Swami was a good man and was doing good work. But he didn't have any real faith. He didn't believe in God, okay, let alone Swami. But when that Om appeared, it changed his life. And we talked it over, and I made him promise that he wouldn't die while I was gone. And he promised, so I went to India, and I had this picture with me. And one of the people sitting with me said, you need to show that picture to Swami, which is kind of like, you know what it was like in Parthi. And even though I was sitting on the veranda, so many people there. But Swami came to me, and I said, Swami, thank you for saving Bill's life. And he went like this. And I thought it might be the Indian thing. I didn't catch that it meant, no, he didn't save his life, he gave him a life extension. And I jokingly, because I always used to joke with Swami, I held up the picture and said, and Swami, you signed your work. And he looked at the picture of the Om and put his finger on it, traced it out, and looked in my eyes and went, Om. And I went, out. And when I came to, he was just deeply looking in my eyes. And he gave me back the picture. And I said, no, Swami, this is for you. And he went, no, for you, like that. And I went, okay, maybe he wants me to give it to Bill. And what's really cool about that is the photographers there who were students in the MBA program at the time knew me, and they were snapping pictures. So I have a picture of that exact moment of Swami handing me back that picture. And what happened was that Bill passed, and he asked me to take over a foundation he was starting called the Comfort Foundation. And I wound up through a series of steps. That became my new job, was helping fund programs in the United States and in India that were doing really good work. So Swami brought me more into service like that. And so my first trip to India, and I told you about the $1,320. Well, when I took the money in, the lady who I gave it to, who was not the lady who originally booked the ticket, happened to be a Shirdi Sai devotee. And she asked me why I was going to Puttaparthi, and I told her, and she said, why don't you go to Shirdi? And I told her the truth. I didn't have enough money. On her own, she arranged for me to be picked up at the airport, and I didn't know this was happening. I got to the airport, and somebody was holding up a sign with my name on it, so I went over to him, and he took me to Shirdi. She paid for it. She paid for a hotel room there. And when I got there, Shirdi wasn't like what I've heard it is now. They had like these lines to go into the temple that were like sticks with like rope, like we'd say like in Disneyland to go in. And so there was nothing else to do there. And so I went into the temple a couple times to see the Samadhi. And then I went back to my hotel room, and I was sitting there and I was reading the Satcharita. I just happened to be reading the Satcharita. And I was sitting in my hotel room going, this is insane. It's my first night in India. What am I doing? So I went back to the temple. And I didn't realize it at the time, but the temple was closed. And there was this guard sitting out there, and the guy, he must have been like 300 years old. I mean, he was so old, he was like, sleeping and like that. And I walked up and he saw me, and he had a gun, a big rifle that was probably older than he was. And he started yelling at me, but I didn't know what he was saying, so I just kind of walked past him. I said Sai Ram and walked past him. And then he went back to sleep. So I went in and leaned on the rock. At that time, it wasn't, I think it's now pretty walled off. I was leaning on the rock that the picture of Shirdi sitting on is always, that's that rock. At least I think it is. And I was leaning on the rock reading the Satcharita all night long. And early in the morning, the caretaker comes in, he looks at me, he says, what are you doing here? And I said, reading the Satcharita. He started laughing, he goes, you're not supposed to be in here. I said, I'm not. And he said, didn't the guard try to stop you? And I said, I didn't understand what he was saying. So he started laughing. And this caretaker took me around the whole temple and showed me each and every place what was going on there. And you know the neem tree that's there? You know that? He took a leaf off the neem tree and gave it to me. He said, taste it. And I was a little, I'd heard about it, but I was a little suspicious, going to eat neem. Ugh. It was like sugar. It was like sugar. So, unbelievable. And then I spent the rest of the time until I had to leave just going through the line. This one priest was watching me because, again, I was the only white boy there at that time. And I had these 2 shawls that I offered. And the priest took the shawls, wrapped them around the Shirdi statue, put them on the Samadhi, and filled them with flowers and candy and gave them back to me.
Swami left his physical body, that was in April 24th, 2011. So how was your reaction for that?
I was shocked, I was stunned. I believe Isaac. But it was hard for me to wrap my head around it. So I called a friend of mine who was one of the other professors at the university, and I said, I won't mention his name, I said, but how is Swami? I said it like that, and he goes, brother, Swami is no more. I was shocked. And you see, I knew that Swami really couldn't go anywhere because it's, the good news, bad news about being a devotee, one of the far near devotees, foreigners, is we had to develop our relationship with Swami also away from Puttaparthi. But it was a blow. It was a blow. And really sad. And I had friends who were in Puttaparthi at that time from America who shared with me what that was like. And in some ways, I was glad I wasn't there, because it would have been very, very, very difficult for me. A lot of the stuff that happened then. Fortunately, as Murtiyana says, Swami abandoned his body, but he didn't abandon us.
Yeah. So tell us about that story, how you got into Swami Sathya.
Well, in 2012, I was having lunch with Srinivas in Delhi, and he told me a story about this boy. And at the time, I didn't, to be honest, I was more interested in the fact, that he was doing this thing with this education. We needed to get the university here, at the campus here in Mudenhali, finally approved. And I didn't really get what he was saying. I thought there was some boy who was channeling Sai Baba in Raipur. That's kind of what I was left with. And honestly, I'm not really into that type of phenomena, somebody, channels, stuff like that. It's like, oh, it's whatever. In 2014, February, March, so it'd been in February, I came to India, and Isaac and I went up to Rishikesh together. A very sweet lady had passed away, very dear friend, almost like a daughter to me. And I had her picture, and I was doing some pujas up in Rishikesh, and we came down to Puttaparthi. We stopped in Mudenhali, and then I had some meetings, from the Comfort Foundation. I had some meetings with certain people involved with Swami, and some that weren't, that were in Bangalore. So we went to Bangalore, and Isaac came with me, and we'd stopped in Mudenhali and went up, and then came back, stopped in Mudenhali and went. And I was leaving, so this was March 1st. My flight was 2 o'clock the next morning, and Isaac offered to drive me to the airport, and I arranged for hotel rooms, because I knew it was going to be, late at night, and I didn't want him to have to drive. And I figured we'd, leave during daylight and, just have some hotel rooms where we could rest and that. And Isaac said, why don't we stay in Mudenhali? And we'd been here a couple times, and I said, I don't want to bother them, Isaac. Let's just, he goes, no, it'll be fine, we can stay there. So whatever. So we wound up staying here, and when we came into Sai Vishwa, Narasimhamurti was there, and Srinivas was there, and this couple was there, and Isaac and I walked in, and we all started talking a little bit, and Srinivas gave me kind of this interesting look. I didn't quite catch what it meant. And Murtiyana said to the couple, I think it's time for you to go to Puttaparthi, because you don't want to drive when the roads are dark. It felt a little like, that's kind of strange that he cut the conversation like that. And so Srinivas was with this couple, and they got up to leave, and Srinivas came over and gave me a hug. He said, I'm very excited for you, brother. And I went, whatever. I still didn't know what was going on. And Isaac got up and walked away for a minute, and Narasimhamurti came over to me and said, Swami wants to see you. And I looked at him, and I didn't know what was going on. So I said, well, here I am, because to me Swami's everywhere, and he can see me, here I am. Isaac heard that and kind of went off on me and told me, this is really serious and stuff. And Isaac, what are you talking about? And he told me Swami's on the hill. And I'm looking at him and go, what do you mean? So he told me about the subtle body. And I'd heard that there were some problems with Mudenhali when I was in Puttaparthi. Somebody actually was screaming at me about Mudenhali, and I didn't know what the guy was talking about. And he didn't tell me, when he was through screaming at me, he didn't tell me what he was screaming about. He just, Mudenhali's evil, blah, 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 whatever. I didn't know what he's talking about. So Isaac explained it to me, and I'm looking, subtle body? What are you talking about? Because I really didn't get it. And I said, Swami wants to see me? Trying to figure out, why? And he said, yes. I said, when? He said, now. So there was a car there, and we drove up to Anandam. That time Anandam was not like it is now. It's before it was redone. And there were some a sofa and some chairs there, and we sat there, and the elevator came down, opened up, and Madhu was there, and he says, "Is this the fellow?" And Murti Anna said, "Yes, this is the fellow." And we went upstairs and walked into the interview room, and my life changed because there was Swami. And
Were you able to see him?
I could see it was really the energetic outline of Swami was sitting in the chair. And that isn't something I see. It's like I've had experience with energetic phenomena and stuff like that, but that wasn't my world. I don't walk around having visions, sometimes, a few when I was younger and stuff like that. But it isn't the world I live in. So this was like very shocking. And then he proceeded to talk to me through Madhu. And the things he said, only Sai Baba would know. And especially one of them, which, I guess I'm going to go on record with this one. Swami said to me, "Tell him how I saved your life." So I've kind of had an active life, and I've done a lot of dumb things. Fun, but dumb. And, like rock climbing and stuff like this, where I would have died from the fall, but somehow I wound up landing in a tree, weird stuff like that. And there was one time that I had double pneumonia, and they wanted to hospitalize me because my friend who's a doctor, he was really afraid that I was going out. And I didn't want to go in a hospital because I've worked in hospitals. I know what they're like. You don't want to go in a hospital. And so he said, "I'll give you 1 day." And I went back home, and it was really a weird feeling. I was sitting up in bed, and I felt like hands go into my chest and grab my lungs and go like this. And all this stuff came out of me, and my breathing cleared up. And I told that story, and Swami looked at me and he said, "Whose hands do you think those were?" And I went, "Oh." And then he said, "But that's not what I'm talking about. Earlier." So I went back to earlier childhood, and he kept saying, "No, earlier." And then he said to me, "You would not have been born except for my grace." And I went. And all of a sudden I remembered something that was not, I don't carry it around in my mind. I was told this by somebody I absolutely trust 100%, was my aunt. And the only people who knew about that were my mom, my dad, the aunt who told me. I think she might have told her husband, and the doctor who delivered me, and the doctors who worked there. Now, keep in mind, this is in March 1st, 2014. My mother and father are gone. My aunt and uncle are gone. The doctor and his staff are long gone. Nobody would have known that, and I wasn't thinking about it. My sister didn't know this story. And then he told me that he was the reason for my birth. And it was kind of funny because I'll share this with you. You can edit this if you want. And I had in the back of my mind, I had this thought, which is not such a good thought. Because with the Gumpert Foundation, I went, "Oh man, I wonder if this is about money." Like that. And Swami immediately said, "You think this is about money. I don't want money. I want you." And I looked at him and I said, "He got me." He may regret that. He may regret that, but he's got me. And that was the beginning of the journey with Swami in the subtle form. And Jenny has amazing faith because I told her, and it's like I was telling her, there's a camera over there. And I said, "Yeah, Jenny, this is really weird. Swami's in the subtle form and Buddhanhali." And she said, "Okay." Belief like that. Swami has told me that, she's very, he said, "I'm the bigger half, and she's the better half." He's right. And then after that, Swami said at that time, "I will come visit you." Now, anybody who's around Puttaparthi in the days that Swami was physically there, he would say he would come visit you. And then you get some vibhuti or something would happen that let you know he's there. So I thought that's what he's talking about. And then in May, towards mid to late May, I was contacted by Murtiana, and he said, "Swami wants to visit you." And I said, "Okay, fine." I thought he was talking like that. He goes, "So we'll be coming." And I went, "Oh, you're physically coming?" He goes, yes, it would be. And he told me he would be coming, and I was kind of like, "Oh, okay." because Jenny and I live very, very simply. We used to have a big house. We downsized to a much smaller house because we were planning to retire in Puttaparthi before Swami took off and left his physical body. And we were concerned because we steam vegetables. That's the extent of our cooking. And here comes Swami and Murti and all these people. I'm going, oh my God, how are we going to, you know, so we're thinking of where can we get really good Indian food catered. And Swami said, don't tell anybody, because we have Indian friends who cook magnificently. But I can't tell them because Swami said, don't tell anybody coming. And then about a week later, after us trying to figure out and calling every place to find a good catering place and, you know, getting things in the house, and, you know, start struggling to get the house in order and all that, got another contact from Murtiana who said, Swami would like to impose on your hospitality and invite a few people. And I said, you know, Swami can't impose on our hospitality, it's his house. Invite whoever you want. And then we found out the first 2 people we invited were gourmet cooks. Swami didn't want to have to deal with our bad cooking or us having it catered. And so we had this wonderful gathering at my house that was just, I mean, it's just unbelievable. Swami's kindness, his playfulness, it was something really special.
You were there with Swami in physical also and continued in subtle. So what is the transformation? Because Swami every time talks about the transformation. So,
well, first off, you know, it's like, I guess you could sit there and stare at the empty chair and try and see him all the time. But what I noticed was I felt him more here. Now, that is on me. It isn't that other people couldn't do that when Swami was embodied, but I noticed it was growing much, much stronger in me. The other thing that happened, and that was probably because of the close contact. I'm sure that the people who had really close contact with Swami in the physical would say the same thing. His love is transformative. And he's given me so many opportunities to learn from him and do service in this. And each one of those has deepened things. You know, my meditations are much deeper than they've ever been. My contact with him is stronger. I feel my heart more. You know, I know, hard to say this, but it's really true. I'm much, much, much more compassionate. Like when we were visiting the girls' campuses, I was in tears all the time. You know, it's wonderful that we have the girls' campuses, but think of all the little girls that can't come. It's heartbreaking. And, you know, it's wonderful that we're doing the hospital work, but think of, you know, we've done, what, close to 8,000, 8,500, 9,000 surgeries, whatever it is now, in cath procedures. But think of all the children that we can't reach. You know, we're feeding a couple 100,000 children a day, but think of all the children we aren't feeding. It's, you know, the mission's more alive now than ever. And I feel Swami's presence more than ever. Now, that's on me. I don't think it's saying anything about when Swami was in the physical, but it's more real, more alive, much deeper. And to be honest, I have much, much more faith in Swami now. Because, you know, I've been directly involved with things that if I told the stories, nobody would believe. I mean, I have a hard time believing, and I was right there. And I'm not talking about the materialization stuff, because like I mentioned, I've seen other saints who can materialize. It's not like that, but things happen where, and just one of them, we were walking through wet ground, or on carpet, sinking into this wet ground, and Swami announced a hospital would be built there a year later. Physically, that's impossible. You can't do it. I used to do some construction work. The ground has to dry before you can lay down a foundation. And in India, I mean, with all due respect to India, you're going to build a hospital in a year? How are you going to do that? And, you know, when you're part of that, I mean, I think this probably happened with the people who are involved with the super specialty in Puttaparthi and in Whitefield also. But to see, here's this ground that you're sinking into because it's wet. And a year later, we're there at the inauguration of a super specialty hospital that's focused on pediatric cardiology. You know, and I'm not just talking about the funding. I mean, that by itself is a miracle. How that all comes together. Again, the stories are unbelievable. But I'm just talking the physical step by step of building a hospital on that wet piece of ground and having such a magnificent structure.
And that two remote places.
Yeah.
You don't have even a hotel to stay.
Palwa and Raipur. When I saw Raipur, the first time I went to Raipur, the community center wasn't finished. We drove out there and it was like, excuse me? You have a hospital out here? Where? And they drove up and it's like, oh my God, that's beautiful. And the statue of Vishnu that's there, that was being finished. And just looking at this and going, in the middle of nowhere, they had to build a road. It's this amazing hospital. You know, and in Raipur? How do you build it that, you know, I mean, Raipur? And now, you know, the one in Delhi, and then now the one in Mumbai, and I'm sure the same thing's going to happen in Calcutta. You know, that's, you know, things like that. It just deepens your faith, and as the faith grows, and the compassion grows, you know, and I think there's a cycle here. So I was thinking about this the other day. And Swami says, love all, serve all. The more service you do, the more love you develop. The more love you develop, the more service you want to do. Because it's not about you're serving these poor people, but it's love in action. And when you feel a lot of love, you have to put it in action. You can't sit with it. You know, and I mean, how can somebody rest easy and say, oh, I have compassion and love, knowing that a child is suffering, knowing that an elderly person is suffering? And we go the next step too, which is where we're starting to move now, knowing that the earth itself is suffering. You know, Swami's new thing with trees and you know, the environmental stuff that we're getting into. It's like you can't feel that type of love and compassion and not be almost compelled to take action. And this is another thing about Swami that I've really, to me it's a change. In the Puttaparthi days, and I remember there was actually an edict like that when I was involved with the center as an officer, is that you worked with side devotees. You didn't go outside of that. And that's fine. Whatever they want to do is fine. I'm not knocking it. Now Swami's telling us you work with everybody. He told me directly, he said, all good work is my work. You help anyone anywhere that's doing good work. And you allow them to help. So it's opened up the door. And we have people that are involved in our projects now, they may not even know Sai Baba's name. You know, they may not believe in God. I don't care. They're doing good work. So I'll support them. I'll do whatever I can do to help. Because Swami told me to.
And you're also having good fortune to travel with Swami to these campuses, various places across the globe. Would you elaborate on that?
But the opportunity to travel with Swami we've been to Canada, the US, Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Greece and Italy, Fiji, Australia. I'm forgetting some countries. I know that we're about to go to Spain, Croatia, and Turkey, and all through India. You know, this is kind of an overused expression, you know, we're all one family and all that. But you really get a feel of it. When I was in Italy and there's a brother there, doesn't speak any English. But we're brothers and you can feel it. Like we see each other and you can feel that love going back and forth. You can see the work that they're doing. You know, go to Assisi, oh my God, what an amazing place. And, you know, some of the experiences there, which maybe sometime we'll talk about, but the experiences there with St. Francis, amazing, amazing. And so not even the side devotees in those places, but you know, some of the Franciscans, their family. In Greece, it's like that. In Fiji and Australia, oh my God, it's like that. In Australia, I remember there were some the people who've been there. They call them the Aboriginals. I don't like that name. It just doesn't feel right to me. I don't know what else to call them. But, you know, the original people of Australia, met some of them, and the way they love Sai Baba. In Fiji, the Fijians that came to see Sai Baba, the tribal Fijians, you've seen it's amazing, and it's amazing the energetic stuff that happens. I mean, we were in Mexico once, and this you may want to edit out because it's out there. We were in Mexico, in Chihuahua of all places, and we're doing the Bhumi Puja for the center there. And the energy shifted. It was like boom, and Madhu looked up, and he went like this. I was standing right next to him. I was handing him things. I really noticed it, and later on I asked him what was going on, and gods and goddesses of Mexico were showing up. We travel all over the world and see how Swami is touching people who never know his name. I mean, think of the Syrian refugees in Greece. They don't say, here, this is from Sai Baba. They're helping them with food and whatever they can do. And in Italy, work that they're doing there. In Argentina, work they're doing. In Brazil, and Colombia, and Mexico, throughout the US, all over the world. I mean, you know, we have Sai Global Federation now. We have, I think, 60 members of the Sai Global Federation of Foundations. We have 60 foundations over 30 countries. And in every one of those countries, there's service being done to really help. And it's not to promote Sai Baba's name. And so, from one perspective, we're really helping people, but really the benefit's here. So what are we doing? So many projects. So many projects all over the world. I mean, in Fiji, I remember when Swami told the Prime Minister that we were going to open up a medical clinic there in a year. He didn't believe him. So we opened the medical clinic in a year. And he said, we're going to have a heart screening center here in a year. And he didn't believe him. And we opened a heart screening center in a year. And now he told them that we're going to build a pediatric cardiological hospital there. And he doesn't believe him. And we'll open it up, next year. And how, both in Fiji and I think Nigeria as well as India, heart surgeries are going on. This is amazing work. It's touching people. I mean, I remember being at a program, I believe, in Fiji, where one of the parents of one of the children was talking about the impact of the surgery. And this parent, I don't even know if they knew then Sai Baba's name, but in tears, talking about how it didn't save the child's life, it saved the family. I remember being in Delhi at the first year. Anniversary. Yeah, at the anniversary, and the minister was there. And I think yeah. And there was a woman talking, and you could see him kept going like this. Like he didn't want to show everybody he's crying. Now, is crying important? Well, not really. But what it was about was the melting of the heart. And that is what's happening. Swami's projects, they're doing wonderful, wonderful things. But they melt your heart. And when your heart melts and you develop compassion, you start loving more. And when you start loving more, you start serving more. When you start serving more, you love more. And Swami, I was talking to him once about sadhana and meditation, because he told me, I admit I go overboard in a few things. I was meditating, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. And Swami told me to stop, which was shocking to me. My guru's telling me to stop meditating? Come on. Isn't he supposed to do the other thing? And so when I stopped doing that, I had more time to do more service, right? So I started doing more service. And I was talking to Swami. I said, it's really strange. I'm not meditating as much, because he then gave me permission to meditate for an hour or two a day. I'm not meditating as much, but I feel closer to you than I ever have. He goes, the sadhana of love all, serve all is the path now. It's the path of transformation of enlightenment that will bring you closer and closer to God. And you can see it. If you love all, you serve more. You serve more, you develop more love. And what is that love? Swami says love is God, God is love. Well, okay, you start opening your heart like that, you start feeling unity. And if you want to go to the metaphysical level, what's happening energetically? Boy, you start deepening energetically. You start experiencing more. I don't get in there about all the wonderful experiences I'm having, but I'm having wonderful experiences. When I meditate now, it's not like before. The things that happen now aren't like before. The things I'm seeing now aren't like before. My experiences aren't like before. So to me, this path of transformation that Swami has us on, of service, this is, the projects are all about that. When I'm working with new foundations or, people come to me and we start projects, I always say to them, look, this project is not for the poor. It's not for the needy. It's for you. You're not helping them. They're helping you. They're giving you a chance to serve. And even this morning I was talking to somebody who's putting together a new foundation in another country, and he was talking to me about the projects, and I said, no. This is your path to self-transformation. Your job as a leader of this particular foundation is to make sure that you stay focused on the personal self-transformation of everybody involved. I said, the service will take care of itself. Swami's doing that. He's the doer. He'll take care of it. Outcome's up to him. Your job is to make sure that everybody's reflecting on what they're getting out of it. Because that's transformation. And if you look around, Suchetan, you'll see this. Look what's happening here. Do you feel the love on this campus?
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. And you go around, I'm looking at you guys behind the camera, you go around, and where do you experience this? It's not, Sairam, sit down, or, it's like the love. And I will tell you this, I know you've traveled a little bit, it's like that everywhere. Go to Argentina, it's like taking an Argentinian bath in love. Mexico's the same way. Italy was unbelievable. And heck, most of the people there didn't speak English. We didn't have to speak. We could love each other. And, it's the only problem with being around devotees like that is, who's serving who? I'm trying to serve them, they're trying to serve me, and we get these things. But we're serving each other, really. And in so many ways, like seeing the campuses, seeing the hospitals, seeing the medical programs, seeing so much of what's going on. We went to one of the Annapurna projects in the village here, and just seeing those children. And it's really funny because, I might get in trouble for this one, but Annapurna is supposed to feed the kids that go to school, right? Well, I saw a few people sneaking in there. This mother and her other daughter who wasn't in school yet, and a few other people, and of course, they're students, and they get fed. I remember in the hospital in Raipur, we were doing rounds, and they were telling me, this child is 6 months old, this child is 3 years old, this child is, and they got this child is 67 years old, and I'm going, 67? A child of God, So it's like, it spreads. And you can see this. I'm not going to mention this one doctor's name, because I've never asked permission to tell the story from him. But this one doctor and I were talking once, and he pulled me aside, because he knows that, I don't really care. I just don't care whether people are side devotees or not. I really don't. To me, it's their heart. And even, they can not only not believe in the subtle form, they can condemn it if they want. I don't care. If they're loving in their heart, they probably wouldn't do that anyway. But what matters is their heart. So this one doctor, and people know that about me, he's pulled me aside, he goes, I've got to tell you something. I said, what's that? He goes, I don't believe in the subtle form. I said, okay. I said, but I'm curious, here you are in the hospital doing this work. And he goes, I believe in the service. I said, oh. And I said, how do you feel inside when you do this work? He goes, that's why I'm here. Because my previous job, I couldn't work like this. Now I can work. Economics don't play a thing. I can help these children. And inside my thought was, well, dude, you're a much better side devotee than many, 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 including me. Now, he takes Padnamaskar. He found Swami. But not because materializations or anything like that. It's because his heart, his heart opened more and more compassion, more love, and he started understanding Swami. Now, I need to change that a little bit. He started gaining some understanding of Swami, like I have some understanding of Swami, who understands Swami. But as you start to get more and more of it, you start to understand this is God. This is God. Swami's God. But you know what? So are you. And you know what? So am I. Every day right now, every single day when I pray, I say, Swami, I pray for three things: to see you more clearly, follow you more nearly, and love you more dearly every day. And then I add one other, well actually two other. I said, and Swami, please give me the grace to always believe in your divinity and in my own.
And so many people who are actually watching this, is there any one message that they can carry out that you would like to give?
If you do what he says, and all you need is that one teaching, love all, serve all. If you do that, you will find Swami. You'll know who he is inside of you. You'll transform. There's no doubt in my mind about it because I'm seeing it. Everybody who does that winds up like that. And the thing is that so that's one. And the other one is, remember, spirituality is fun. God, it's the one concern I have. I see so many people trying to do spirituality or do service. It's fun, enjoy yourself. When we were just at that little girls' campus, Gadag,
Yeah.
did you remember what those little girls were like when Swami's helicopter was landing? And they were jumping up and down and playing, and Swami loved it. And the way that they did the performances for him, come on, let's be honest. I mean, those things were not professional level performances. But my God, were they having fun. When you put Swami in first place, and you do Swami's work, you have time for everything. If you put things in front of Swami, you don't ever have time for Swami's work. So I always prioritize Swami's work first. That's what I do. And the time that's left over, I do other things. These days, Swami's giving me less time left over, but see, and because it's so much fun, you don't mind it. And there's the thing. Remember, Swami said that change your work is rest. I didn't understand that. Now I do. Now I do. And it's true. Not everybody can do what a lot of us do with our lives or Swami's work, but they can make whatever they do Swami's work by adding love. See, you have families, of course. So what do? Well, love your family more, serve your family more. That's Swami's work. Swami's work is not going to work in the hospital or going to work in the school. It's what you're doing every single day. That's Swami's work. If you're working in an office, consider yourself serving the people in that office. Learn to love the people in that office. That's Swami's work. Swami's, I kind of think he's given projects to those of us who don't have something better to do. I'm joking about that. But it's like everything that you do is Swami's work. And he's made that clear. All good work is his. So the moment you take your mindset and you're going to work whatever you're doing, if you're an IT guy, if you're a construction worker, whatever you're doing, I mean, imagine a construction worker. You're building a house. That house is going to be occupied by people. And when you open up compassion, wouldn't you want them to have a wonderful house? Wouldn't you want them to really love that house and be safe in that house and have a sturdy house? So aren't you going to do your work better? And as you do your work better and more focused on that, aren't you going to feel more love for the people? So it's not a matter of, finding a way to work in Swami's projects. It's a matter of putting Swami first and then making all of your work his work. That's the way I see it. And in traveling, I see people doing that now. Because again, it's one of the things that I was encouraging you guys, I encourage everybody to do is sit down and talk about Swami. Because you have an experience and you start sharing it, the experience grows in you. It becomes more. I don't mean exaggerated, but it becomes more alive. There are things that happen, and feel free to edit this out, of course, but there are things that happen when I tell them, it's like, did that really happen? And yeah, it did. I was there. It was me. And it deepens faith. Yes. I mean, for God's sakes, me meeting two of the presidents of the Ramakrishna order, this kid from Vegas, how did that happen? Me meeting all the saints and sages at Swami's, but how did that happen? It's all Swami's doing. I often think I'm a lot of work for him. He has to give me all these experiences because I'm really not as quick on the uptake as maybe someone like you. So
really wonderful, okay. David. So we'll again meet you very soon. Thank you so much for your love and then time.
Thank you for your love and your time, my brother. Sarah.
Thank you, Sai Ram.